Shalom and welcome back to Empowerment of Faith Kingdom Center for Ambassadors. I am Elder Tori and I am delighted to be back on this platform once again to be able to minister this word in our Saturday night's teaching. Before we get started, I do want to make sure that I take a moment to encourage you guys to not only like the video, but comment as well, and be sure to subscribe to our channel so that you can catch us anytime that we go live, but also you can go back and study on your own time. As you guys have seen, we have a plethora of teachings to empower and enhance your life, but definitely make yourself available to go back and study with us. So, and then also before we get started, I do want to make sure that I do take a moment to thank our senior pastor here, Dr. Larry, at Empowerment of Faith, for continuing to allow me to be on this platform to be able to minister. So we are going to go ahead and jump right on in this evening. And this evening, we're going to be talking about choices, and specifically purpose. And so we have been, so we're going to be talking about choices and purpose, and a king's choice to operate in purpose. And so what I mean by that is that there are kings who have come into the knowledge of who they are. They've come into knowledge of their purpose, and they choose to operate in that daily. However, there are kings who they understand a little bit, but they may not be operating in purpose. And then at the same time, you have kings who are lost, who are simply unaware of their position, unaware of what they have access to, and as a result, they're not operating in purpose. And so we have to make sure that just because we don't understand purpose or aren't aware of purpose, that doesn't strip us or give us a valid reason for not operating in our purpose. And so as we come into the knowledge, as we start to learn and see our position in who we are, we have to understand that we have a purpose that we should be operating in. See, many times people will get born again and they'll go through what they feel is the correct way of living and feel that though they are operating in purpose, but you're not completely operating in the purpose that we were designed to operate in. So we are going to go ahead and jump right on in, and I am going to be moving around just a little bit on my notes. But before we really start digging into purpose, one thing that I do want to mention is the kingdom mandate. And so I have this note up here, and we'll read the scripture. Just going to make a quick reference to it. But it says, Elohim blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the earth. So right here, it's more than we all have an assignment to, as ambassadors. See, we bring the culture of heaven here on the earth. See, people see light through us, through ambassadors, through the kings who are here in the earth operating. So we all have this kingdom mandate to bring others into the kingdom, into the knowledge of the truth, so that they can be a part of the kingdom as well. However, our purpose and what we are designed to do does not stop there and is not limited to that, though that it is included in what we are designed to do when it comes to living out a purpose. So when it comes to living out a purpose, we have to make a choice to live out a purpose. See, we live in this society where people do stuff because they do and don't want to do it, or they make decisions based on how they feel, or I just leave it at that. Make decisions based on how they feel in that moment. And that's not reflective of kingdom. See, there are so many choices that we can make that block our purpose that we don't even realize that we're doing to block purpose. So we're going to talk about this in just a second. But before we do, I want to make sure that we lay a good understanding of what purpose is. See, we have been taught so many ideas of what purpose is, and people just go on these long, drawn out journeys of trying to figure out why am I here? What am I supposed to do? um they go and they look in the wrong direction, in the wrong area. So we have to make sure that we get the right understanding of what purpose is. I'll never forget this one job that I had in my early 20s, and it's this one. I worked as a sexual assault advocate, and so there was this one particular woman that was there who felt like I remember it very clearly, she really believed that it was her purpose to advocate, sorry, for individuals in the alphabet community so that they could have rights to marry and be accepted and all of these things. And so that's why I said we have to make sure that when it comes to purpose, we're connected to the right source. She was being validated from helping these people in this particular community have what she felt like was an easier life, more acceptable life. She was encouraged to do this. And so we even have to make sure that just because we're getting positive feedback from something that we're doing, or we feel warm and fuzzy on the inside from what we're doing, that that's not validating us operating in purpose. So I want to go and talk a little bit about purpose before we move on and start talking about choices, because like I said, there are so many ideas that surround purpose that are completely wrong. So when it comes to purpose, we have to understand that we have vision and purpose. So vision is a revelation of purpose. So when that vision is really understanding who we are, and purpose is feeling that vision. So once we understand that, and purpose is understanding who you are. So once we understand who we are and understand that once we understand who we are, we can start operating in purpose and fulfilling that vision. See, when the world talks about purpose, how many times have we heard them actually talk about vision? And many times in the world, when they catch on to purpose and they determine what purpose is, a lot of times they'll connect it to their jobs, or purpose is connected to a gift. Don't get me wrong, you do need your gifts when you're operating in vision and operating in purpose, but many times the world will focus just on the gift and really develop that gift, and they say, oh, I am supposed to do this, or a person who is really good at music, oh, I am music, and that's a gift. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that people are just people can't use music and they can't be talented in music. I'm not saying that you can't do any of those things, but what I'm saying is always go back to that kingdom mandate that we talked about, and those gifts are supposed to help you, but we got to get a good understanding of that. So now that we have a good understanding of what purpose is and understanding that kingdom mandate, I want to go into a few things, choices that block purpose. So, some choices that block purpose are simply just making the wrong choice. Whether we made the wrong choice out of ignorance, or we made the wrong choice because you just said, this is what I want to do, and it was a bad choice, and you knew that was a bad choice, then yeah, making the wrong decisions can be a purpose blocker. I can remember when I was in college, and I know I'm not the only one that said it, that said, well, I know what I'm about to do is wrong, but I'm gonna ask for forgiveness later. See, things like that, it blocks purpose, and we have to be knowledgeable to make sure that we don't have those types of ideas in our belief system, in our mind, in the way that we are living, because it's going to come out in our lifestyles. So we have to make sure that we are changing the way that we think, and that's something we're going to talk about as well. Another choice that blocks purpose: cultural and societal norms. See, this is a huge one, and we could spend hours talking about this, but just as that example that I made of that young woman feeling like advocating for the alphabet community was her purpose, society was validating that for her. So we have to make sure that we don't let what society tells us validates us and make us believe that we're operating in I'm sorry, making sure that we're operating in purpose and we're not. I can give you another example of many people, they go to college, they get a good job, and they get married, have kids, and they do all of that, and they are still unhappy. And I'm like, well, I did everything that I was supposed to do. Well, society told us that that's what. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying go out here and have a bunch of kids and get married. Yes, do still live according to the word. But what I'm saying right here is that don't be so connected to the world and society and culture that we cut ourselves off from operating in purpose. See, I'll leave it at that. Making sure that societal norms aren't cutting us off and blocking us from actually reaching and fulfilling our purpose. And then we have religion and tradition. This is another big one that that we could choose that stops us from operating in our purpose. So I'll give another example of that. We just came out of this Christmas season, and this is just an example, but there are many people who are celebrating Christmas and feeling like that they are 100% validated and they're honoring, well, I'll just say Jesus for the sake of this, but they feel like what they're doing is 100% correct. Now, we have been taught extensively about Christmas and the traditions and yes, the holidays. We've been taught extensively about that. Well, and just to use for the sake of that example, by choosing to celebrate Christmas, you're cutting off the Father from from showing you things or showing you the knowledge of his truth in the area of dealing with, replacement theology and Christmas and things of that nature. So when we choose things like and I said Christmas because yes, Christmas is connected to both society and religion. I'm using the religious portion of it to illustrate to us that we can do something that religion validates as being fine, but it doesn't push us in the purpose of fulfilling. It doesn't push us into fulfilling purpose or operating out of our purpose. So we have to make sure that we aren't letting little things like that sneak in and block us from doing what we're supposed to do. Family. That's a huge one. That's a huge one. There can be so many ideas and thoughts that are passed down through family. For example, if you have a family that has passed down um like Hinduism, that religion has been, see, that's a double whammy. Religion and family is passed down, and now here you come saying, well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, I'm not operating in that anymore, and your family shuns you. So you have to make a choice then to decide, am I going to choose my family, or am I still going to be seeking the Father so that I can continue to operate in the purpose that I was designed to operate in. So we have to make sure that we're making ourselves sensitive. And even as we're talking about this aspect of family, I'm reminded of the scripture where Yeshua said that if you love your mother, your father, your brother, sister, or whatever, then you're not worthy of me. So we have to make sure that we're choosing to live in purpose on purpose every day, but also making sure that we're not making decisions and choices that are stopping us from operating. So next we have politics. We have seen a huge divide and just in this country, in the nature of politics, we've seen a huge divide. We've seen families divided. We've seen just a new level, I won't say a new level, but an exposed level of division that has come forth in the area of politics. And don't be deceived. That is 100% on purpose, but that's another area for another day. Next, you have social media and entertainment. Even with social media and entertainment, see, entertainment is not something to just be taken lightly or to be overlooked or just to be seen as, oh, well, that's just entertainment. See, many times people, especially in this society that we live in now, and it's definitely something that is rooted in the romantic culture that has been passed down to the Western world. But yes, we know that entertainment is to distract you, it's to get you focused on other things, and it really, if you allow it to engulf you the way that it wants to engulf you, it can stagnate you, stop you from doing not only operating in your purpose, but even functioning how you are on the most basic level of function. Because how many times have we heard of a gamer that has lost his marriage because he was gaming all the time? Or how many times have we talked about, oh, I was just on social media and before I knew it, I was on it for hours. We've done it. We've all done it. And I would be lying if I said I've never done it. But what I'm saying is that we can't, we have to rule over those things, and we have to make the choice to not allow entertainment to get in and entertain my mind to where I can't do anything else. And see, that will even go back to what we have on here as cultural norms. Oh, well, it's normal to do this and that. It's normal to sit down and watch TV all day. It's normal to do this and that, but we have to get to the intent of these things like entertainment and social media to make sure that as his intentions is to distract me and keep me focused on something else, that I'm not falling into that, but I'm continuing to choose to operate in purpose. So then next we have trauma. I can do the last two together. Trauma, and I put past hurts, disappointments, deaths, relationships, etc. So these two are huge. They're huge. And we have to make sure that, for one, we position ourselves to heal from trauma if we have experienced trauma. We have to position ourselves. See, the Father doesn't want us locked up in past trauma, locked up in our minds and miserable. See, He's willing and He's able to heal us, but we have to make that choice to go through the process of healing. We have to make that choice to position ourselves to receive from Him and to come in and heal those wounds that we can't heal ourselves. And though I'm not going into a discussion on trauma or a teaching on trauma, what I'm saying is that many people are holding on to past hurts, past traumatic events, whether it was a sexual assault or an abuse, or even if it was a death in the family that really was an emotional trauma for you. So we have to make sure that we're not holding on to those things, holding on to things that I won't say no longer relevant, but dead things in our lives, and choosing those to block us from going forth. See, all these things are just examples of what can be used if we choose to not operate in our purpose. They can be used to stop us and block us. And that's not what we want. What we want to do is to move forth in purpose. So we have to understand that, yes, we are kings. We are kings here in the earth. We are set here to dominate. We are set here to see. The word tells us that the Father wants us to prosper in all that we do, but we have to make sure that we aren't allowing any of these purpose blockers to come in and block us from living out our purpose the way the Father designed us to do. So even if we see that we have some of those purpose blockers in us, sometimes we just may need to go in and detox or consecrate ourselves. Well, yeah, I should say consecrate. Go in and detox and really change the way that we think. Let me do this note really quick, and then we can go into consecration. So we have what's called the 7 stages of conformity. Now that is important because many of those purpose blockers that I just brought up have really cultivated the way people live daily. And so as we see that there are areas that we need to change, and as we see that we have made choices that have hindered us from moving forward and operating in purpose, now it's time for us to go in and make that change. And ultimately, we have to go through, we do have to go through a consecration. But before we get into consecration, I want to make sure that I talk about the 7 stages of conformity and how important it is, because the 7 stages of conformity will explain to us why we live the way that we live. And because it starts with a thought. And so right here we have the precept, which is the original idea. Then you go into your concept, which is in a thought, which is an idea that you accept. That concept becomes your conviction, which is what you live by, and your conviction becomes a belief system. So you have a set of convictions that you live by, and your ideology, what you believe as true, and that becomes your philosophy, what you live by, and then ultimately your lifestyle, which is how you live. So even as I was thinking about that this time, I was reminded of my son. And my son, he just turned 4. He just had a birthday. And if anybody knows anything about this little boy, he loves trucks. And so as I was thinking about this, just the 7 stages of conformity, a truck is not a new concept. A truck is not something that was, a truck has been around for a long time. And so as he came into life and living and growing, the precept for him was the truck. And so he saw a truck, he liked it, he agreed with it, and that became his concept. And so as that became his concept, he saw trucks, he liked it. Yeah, that became his concept. He liked it. Then it became his conviction. And so for him, what I mean by that, everything should be a truck. Every toy he gets should be a truck. Everything is it, whether it's a small truck, big truck, everything needs to be a truck. So then you go into your belief system, which is a set of convictions. So for him, his set of convictions is you need a truck. whether you got a pickup truck, a semi truck, a box truck, a dump truck, everything is related to trucks for him. So that has then created his ideology, which is a system of ideas that he believes is acceptable. So for him, I mean, he's okay getting in the car, but you need to have a truck. Everything for him, everything trucks is better. And so even when he's playing outside, when he's playing in the mud with his toys, he is not going to get blocks and things like that. He's going to get different trucks. And so he has a truck for this, he has a truck for that, he has a truck for that. And that has become, I won't say trucks are completely his lifestyle, but as far as him playing and things of that nature, and even when he wants to watch TV, he wants to watch something that has to do with trucks. So that has really cultivated in his mind a lifestyle and how he lives. So even if I let him, even recently, he wanted for his birthday, he wanted a Harvester birthday party. But in a lot of that birthday party was surrounded by trucks because, and the reason why he is so dead set on trucks because he accepted a precept a long time ago that has really cultivated and shaped the way that he lives and how he lives. It's the reason why when he goes outside to play, he's playing with trucks. See, that didn't just happen overnight. It started with an idea that he accepted. And that's important that we make sure. I pull that example out to make sure, like, yes, this example with this truck may be simple and that he's a child, but him liking trucks could really lead off into his adulthood. He could really, his dad has a business that deals with trucks. That's something that because he accepted that precept when he was young, that's something that he could do when he's older. Now, in his case, it may be beneficial for him because it could be, I won't say it could be, but that could be beneficial for him because he could pick up and carry on what his dad has started. But we also have to realize that sometimes when it comes to dealing with purpose, if we have a concept in us or an idea in us that we've accepted as a young child, that, for example, trauma that we have, I won't even say trauma or even, I'll just say a bad precept or a bad idea that we've accepted as a child, and now we're an adult trying to operate in purpose that may be blocking us. And so it's important for us to make sure that we understand that, because if we see that we have things in us that are unlike the Father, are blocking us, now we see that it's time that I need to go on a consecration to make sure that I am uprooting any precepts or ideas in me that are ultimately blocking me from moving forth, because we're dealing with purpose right now. We're dealing with kings making the decision to operate in purpose. And as kings, see, we should be emptying ourselves daily. And I'm not limited, I'm saying kings, but it's not limited to just men. And so as we look at the word consecrate, it means to be filled, and it has a two-part meaning ultimately of emptying ourselves out so that we can be full. So we have to first, before the Father can even fill himself with us, we have to make sure that we're going to consecration. And especially when it comes to, because consecration should be a lifestyle, but especially when it comes to seeking the Father, desiring his face, being before him and choosing to operate, well, let me rephrase that. Especially as we are going back to vision and purpose, and we talked about vision is a revelation of purpose, and purpose is seeing who we are, and make sure and have it. Let me go back to it because but vision is a revelation of purpose, and purpose is feeling that vision, and purpose is understanding who we are. Well, we have to see ourselves the way the Father wants us to, the way the Father sees us, because society will tell you how to see yourself. Society will tell a woman that you are nothing more than hips, lips, and fingertips, and they'll tell a man, unless you make so much man, you're not valuable as a man. So we have to make that. Notice I said society. Don't get me wrong. So when it comes to operating in purpose and making sure that, for one, we're seeing ourselves correctly, we need to consecrate and make sure that we empty ourselves out of anything in us, especially the way we see ourselves. If it does not align with the word, we need to make sure that we uproot that. So let's take a brief moment to look at this word consecrate. Do it. So when we look at the word consecrate, we have right here, it's a reminder, Hebrew is spelled from left to right. So we have this, it's spelled from left to right. And so when we look at it, it means to be filled, to make first, or prioritize the anointing of the life-giving spirit. So right here, when we break it down, we have the mem, the anointing, the life-giving spirit, spiritual authority to govern. And then we have this aleph, which is what is first, the source. So when we prioritize the Father, when we minimize ourselves and we allow the life-giving spirit to come in and we make him priority, then he can come in and fill us, but he's not going to fill a cup that's closed. So even when it comes to purpose and seeing ourselves correctly, see, we first need to see that we are kings and kings have purpose. So we have to make sure that we are opening ourselves up to receive that so that we can operate and think like a king. See, most of this session or this teaching, we've talked about what are purpose blockers, and we talked about the 7 stages of conformity. But what we were trying to do in that was to see that sometimes we need to stop and take a look at how I'm thinking, because how I'm thinking will come out of how I'm living. So the things that I'm thinking about, see, the word says that as a man thinks, so is he. So what I'm thinking about reflects the choices that I make, and the choices are going to reflect the lifestyle that I live. And so many times before we even many times before we can even go into a conversation of having purpose, we need to stop and first see how we view ourselves. But then on top of that, then it's time to make sure we go through that consecration and replace it to see ourselves the way the Father sees us. So that is all we have time for today. With the next session, we'll get into thinking like a king. Thank you guys for tuning in with us on today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we speak shalom.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in or joining us in person. Remember, honored guests are always welcome on any platform and especially in person. Thank you so much, and shalom, y'all.